The name Vince Guaraldi is usually not one that is casually tossed about in the home. Guaraldi's music, however, can be heard and recognized throughout the world of jazz, whether it be in a club after dark downtown or on a holiday morning with children surrounding televisions and parents reveling in nostalgia. Vince Guaraldi was a pianist from the San Francisco Bay Area who made his mark in the musical world with what have become widely cherished standards created throughout his lifetime. Guaraldi composed and performed the music for the Peanuts television specials by Charles Schulz. Whether they knew it or not, the young audience of these specials were being exposed to a complex yet accessible score of jazz. Guaraldi explored the reaches of jazz in a children's context, and as jazz's ambassador, he incites musical ideas that capture the sounds of generations continuing to be defined. Born Vincent Anthony DeLaglio on July 17, 1928, Vince grew up in the North Beach area of the San Francisco Bay. At 7, his lifelong endeavor with the piano began. He took the name of his stepfather after his biological father left the family, and as time went on, Guaraldi found himself playing through the various clubs with various artists in the freshly blossoming San Francisco jazz scene of the 1950s. He was picked up by an explosive vibraphonist named Cal Tjader, and together with numerous band members, Tjader's group, supported and polished by Guaraldi's piano playing, performed at San Francisco's renowned Black Hawk Jazz Club. Playing live, Guaraldi became more confident in his skills that made him appeal to the public, the same public that would adore his playful music one decade later. After playing his first stint with Tjader, he moved on to the bohemian-style Hungry Eye Jazz Club. Guitarist Eddie Duran and bassist Dean Riley met up with Vince and quickly became the house band of the Hungry Eye, earning the nickname the Hungry Eye Trio. As the three musicians exchanged experiences and musical traits, their work resided in territory not yet explored by the San Francisco jazz scene. This is where Guaraldi sharpened his skill, status, and style. He stooped over the piano keys, tilted his head attentively, and moved his tiny hands so quickly that he could play two halves of a difficult chord in succession, and they would appear in unison. He would roll his hands across the keys, causing the piano to growl and yell, a unique trait most evident in his work for the Charlie Brown specials. A culturally integral jazz critic and author who would later become an important piece of Guaraldi's career, Ralph Gleason, described a particularly electrifying performance at the Hungry Eye. That night, Guaraldi suddenly took off. He hunched over the piano, ducked his head down behind his two hands, and wailed. He sat sideways at the piano, casual style, and wailed. This pairing of unparalleled style and unrelenting talent propelled Vince Guaraldi through his first, but certainly not the last taste of being the frontman of a record-pressing trio. Once again, Vince moved on. He played with big band legend Woody Herman and once more with Cal Tjader, with whom he recorded albums for Fantasy Records, started by Max Weiss. Eventually, in 1963, Guaraldi, back with a trio of his own, recorded his hit song Cast Your Fate to the Wind, from his album Jazz Impressions of Black Orpheus.
Cast your fate to the wind. Take one.
Cast your what?
Black Orpheus was an influential film which offered many songs that became jazz standards as performed by artists like Vince. Cast Your Fate to the Wind was an original composition, however, and earned Vince a Grammy for the Best Original Jazz Composition of 1963. At the very least, Cast Your Fate to the Wind was a smashing success for Vince and Fantasy.
Vince's record did create a problem in that we made a profit, and we're not really ready for a profit.
As Guaraldi's publicity flourished, he was reunited with his frequent contemporary Ralph Gleason, who was working on a television series that showcased jazz musicians, culture, and philosophy, a true first step into the realm of showcasing their young breed of jazz for the national audience. By then, Vince had also teamed up with a reserved Brazilian jazz guitarist by the name of Bola Sete. The two were fascinated with each other's styles, and each would become a critical portion of the other's success. Sete played a new beat called Bossa Nova. Bossa Nova had migrated northward from Brazil to America as American jazz seeped into South America, a revolutionary exchange for culture and music alike, and it struck a chord with Guaraldi. Vince and Bola would record numerous times together and appeared on Gleason's Jazz Casual in 1963. Then, in 1964, Guaraldi's career, legacy, and life would change. A TV producer named Lee Mendelson had been working with the popular cartoonist Charles Schulz. Schulz was the creator of the Peanuts comic strip, which showcased a boy named Charlie Brown. Peanuts was a household name, and it was time to advance the company. Mendelson was chosen to produce a television cartoon Christmas special called The Charlie Brown Christmas. Music would be a must for the show, and Mendelson knew he wanted jazz. One day, while driving across the Golden Gate Bridge, Mendelson heard Cast Your Fate to the Wind on the radio, and he was struck. It was melodic and open, according to Mendelson, and came in like a breeze off the bay. Mendelson, Guaraldi, Schulz, and animator Bill Melendez convened and worked on their would-be smash hit, all to the tune of Guaraldi's enticingly accessible jazz compositions. music and American culture would not remain the same after Guaraldi hit the television airwaves on CBS December 9th, 1965. Guaraldi's music in Peanuts was unprecedented. He, along with Schultz and Mendelssohn, took the adult, often gloomy culture of jazz music and applied it to a context which it had never seen. The concept of jazz was changed by Guaraldi as he composed music that was jovial and gave children a way to experience a style of music more complex than any nursery rhyme. Complexity, however, was not immediately visible. Children heard Guaraldi's music behind Charlie Brown and his friends, and whether they knew it or not, they were associating his music with the lightheartedness of cartoons and Christmas. This was Guaraldi's first influential breakthrough to that size and type of audience. At 7:30 p.m. on December 9th, 1965, 45% of the entire population watching television was tuned into CBS hearing Guaraldi's music. The critical acclaim was monumental. Nationwide, Charlie Brown and his friends had become overnight cultural icons, and Guaraldi's music was everywhere. Airports, shopping centers, anywhere it would strike a chord.
Some people think you've sold out. Do you think you've sold out?
I feel I bought in.
Considering how many listeners Guaraldi had secondarily acquired, his music had to be everywhere. At this point, Guaraldi had started his long road of being an unsung hero of jazz, American culture, and influence for millions of children to pursue what they loved. Peanuts was everywhere. Vince Guaraldi was everywhere. In every home, in every ear, and in every heart. When the special wasn't on the air, the public gained access to Guaraldi's critically acclaimed music through Max Weiss and Fantasy Records releasing the soundtrack in the first week of December. Peanuts became a family favorite, gaining positive publicity from parents across America who were concerned for their children's exposure to the cultural change of the mid-1960s. Parents all around America were thrilled with what they were seeing. It was good for the family, thus good for Vince. The showcasing of children in the show made the encounter of children to Guaraldi's music more smooth. Because of the unprecedented nature of Guaraldi's music for Peanuts, there was no template for his music, so he could create as he saw fit for the show. This meant he would explore the idea of using children's vocals to convey the innocence of the music and values of the special.
Do you think children have any more of a special feel for jazz over adults?
Well, they don't question it, and they enjoy it, and they have the tiny voices. You get enough of them together, and it gets a different kind of a timbre that you're used to hearing in jazz, you know. And it's fun to work with the kids. It's good. They like to sing, they like to sing the songs that they hear on the radio. So this gives them some incentive to work at it. And this group here is fabulous. It's well-trained, professional.
This candid attitude helped audiences young and old feel an emotional relation to the show and the music. Internationally renowned jazz artist David Benoit was 12 years old when A Charlie Brown Christmas aired. We just tripped on the music. It was jazz, not the usual sing-song stuff that accompanied cartoons, he remembered. Likewise, acclaimed jazz pianist George Winston was 16 when the special aired. He was more interested in the animation than anything else regarding the show, until he listened to Guaraldi's iconic original piece, Linus and Lucy. Winston recalled, "I loved that piano. It just growled. It drove me insane. I was transfixed by that piano and the song." Also connected to Guaraldi's music through Peanuts is jazz author, philosopher, and trumpeter extraordinaire Wynton Marsalis. "When I was a boy," said Marsalis, "the only time you would hear jazz on television was when Charlie Brown came to town. I didn't think of the comic strip on the page apart from the television special and Vince Guaraldi's music, which I liked because it was happy and upbeat." Benoit, Winston, and Marsalis would all go on to impact jazz and American culture to the extent they never expected. This mirrors the unlikely success of Guaraldi's music from the Peanuts specials. This success can be measured in the exchange of musical ideas that Guaraldi and future generations shared. The styles of Benoit, Winston, and Marsalis are direct results of Guaraldi's exploration of jazz in the context of Peanuts, and due to this musical exchange from Vince to succeeding generations, American popular culture has shifted. Commercial shift is not the most important product of Guaraldi's vision, however. Since its creation, jazz has been a bridge predominantly for black culture and white culture. A bridge that was blanketed by the overpowering Jim Crow laws and omnipresent racism integrated into the American psyche during Guaraldi's time. Jazz, however, shone through as it became more popular amongst the common listener. Vince Guaraldi further brought jazz into the limelight, exposing aspects of culture that were undisputably born from African American roots. Guaraldi was an excellent ambassador for jazz into the racially concerned public as he was white and an outstanding musician. Furthermore, Vince helped create the iconic staples of the American 1960s that were the Peanuts specials.
Millions of kids and their parents heard jazz maybe without even realizing it from watching those Peanuts specials.
Every year we see Schultz's Peanuts Christmas special appear on television, gaining as much anticipation and enthusiasm as when it aired in 1965. This attitude is carried over to Guaraldi's music, where for many it represents joyous youth. To others it brings pleasant remembrance of theirs. For some, it presents inspiration and challenge to explore further with jazz in the gentle footsteps of Guaraldi's music.
Little birdie.